You send a message on a Sunday afternoon. Something simple. Maybe a photo, maybe just checking in. You wait. An hour passes. Then two. By evening, there's still no reply. And somewhere in that silence, a thought starts to form. Not loud, not dramatic. Just quiet. Asterisk, is he pulling away from me? Asterisk. If that feeling is familiar, this video might offer something worth sitting with for a few minutes. Because there's a chance that what looks like distance isn't really distance at all. There's a chance that what's happening has very little to do with how he feels about you, and a lot to do with something that's much harder to see from the outside. And that distinction, as small as it might sound, might change the way you read a lot of moments. First, before anything else, it's worth saying this clearly. If you've been feeling like something shifted between you and your son, that feeling is real. You're not imagining it. You're not being oversensitive. Something has changed. The calls are shorter or less frequent. The replies come later, or sometimes not at all. The conversations that used to flow now feel a little more effortful. You reach, and sometimes it feels like you're reaching into empty space. That experience, that quiet ache of feeling like someone you love is somehow less present, is one of the most disorienting things a parent can go through, especially because it doesn't come with an explanation. Nobody sat you down and said things are going to feel different now. It just happened gradually, and you've been trying to make sense of it ever since. And the most natural thing in the world is to turn that confusion inward, to wonder if you said something wrong, to replay conversations, to ask yourself if the relationship changed because you changed, or because he changed, or because of something that happened between you that never quite got resolved. That instinct makes complete sense. When someone we love seems further away, we look for reasons. We look for the moment it started. We try to trace it back to something. But there's a possibility worth considering. One that doesn't involve fault, doesn't involve distance, and doesn't involve anything being broken. It's possible that what you're experiencing isn't about the relationship at all. It's possible it's about something much larger than both of you. Here's something worth pausing on. The world your son is living in today is genuinely, structurally different from the world you navigated at his age. Not in a small way. In a way that affects almost every hour of his day. How he works, how he rests, how he thinks, how much space he has left for anything that isn't urgent. And this isn't a complaint about his generation, or an excuse, or a comparison to figure out who has it harder. It's just something that becomes very relevant when we're trying to understand why someone who loves us doesn't always show up the way we expect. Think about what a typical day might look like for him right now. He wakes up, and before he's fully awake, his phone has already delivered something that needs his attention. A message from work, a notification, something that pulls him out of the quiet before the day has even started. And that's not an exaggeration. That's just the texture of modern mornings for a lot of people. He goes through his day carrying not just his work, but the awareness that his work can reach him at any moment. There's no real wall between professional time and personal time anymore. A message can arrive at 10 p.m., or on a Saturday, or during dinner. And even when nothing arrives, the possibility that something could arrive keeps a part of his mind in a kind of low-grade alert. Always partially on, always partially somewhere else. And this is where things can start to shift in ways that are hard to name. There's a kind of tiredness that doesn't come from doing too much in a single day. It comes from never fully stopping. From living in a state where the mind doesn't get to completely let go. Not at the end of the workday, not on weekends, sometimes not even during sleep. Researchers sometimes call it cognitive overload, but the lived experience of it is much simpler than that. It's the feeling of having too many tabs open, all the time, with no way to close them. And when someone is living inside that kind of mental noise, something subtle happens to how they show up in relationships. Not because they stop caring, but because caring takes capacity, and capacity is exactly what gets quietly eroded by a world that never fully powers down. When your son reads your message and doesn't reply immediately, it's possible that it's not because he doesn't want to. It's possible that in that moment, he genuinely doesn't have the kind of presence required to give that message what it deserves. Not the rushed, distracted version of himself, but the real version, the one who would actually enjoy talking to you. And so he thinks, asterisk, I'll reply when I can actually be there. Asterisk, and then the day swallows that intention. And the message is still there, unanswered, carrying a weight it was never meant to carry. Almost no one notices this in the moment. Not him, not you. From your side, It reads as silence. From his side, it was never silence. It was a postponement with good intentions that got lost in the noise. There's something else happening too, something a little less visible, but maybe even more important. The financial pressure that many people his age are carrying right now is unlike what previous generations faced at the same stage of life. And this isn't about complaining or catastrophizing. It's just a reality that quietly shapes everything. The cost of living has gone up in ways that feel almost absurd when you look at the numbers. Housing, food, transportation, healthcare. The basics that used to be manageable on a normal income now require constant calibration. And on top of that, there are new costs that didn't exist before. Subscriptions, digital services, the financial infrastructure of modern life that silently bills you every month whether you're paying attention or not. What this creates, and this is worth sitting with, isn't just financial stress in the obvious sense. It creates a kind of background hum of financial anxiety that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't look like panic. It looks like someone who's always quietly doing the math, always aware, in the back of their mind, that the margin for error is smaller than it used to be. That one unexpected expense, one slow month, one job change can ripple through everything. And that hum doesn't turn off when he calls you. It doesn't pause during dinner or disappear on vacation. It's just there, underneath everything, coloring the quality of his attention in ways he might not even fully recognize himself. And this is the part that tends to surprise people. It's possible that he's not just dealing with the pressures you can see. It's possible he's also carrying the ones he hasn't told you about. Not because he's hiding them, but because, for many adult children, there's a particular kind of difficulty in being fully honest with parents about struggle. There's a version of love that makes it hard to say, "I'm not okay. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not sure I'm handling everything as well as I look like I am." Not because the love isn't there, but because, sometimes, being honest about struggle with a parent feels like it risks something. Like it might worry them too much. Like it might change how they see you. Like it might invite a kind of help that's hard to receive without feeling like you've gone backwards. So instead, he keeps things general. He says he's fine. He says he's busy. And then he retreats a little, not to hurt you, but because maintaining the full version of himself in every relationship takes energy he doesn't currently have. And somehow, the relationships that feel the safest are sometimes the ones we pull from first, because we trust those people won't disappear if we go quiet for a while. There's something worth pausing on in that, actually. Sometimes the people we pull away from are the ones we trust the most, not the ones we care about least. Now, let's hold both of these things at once for a moment, because this is where something important lies. On one side, you're experiencing real absence, real silence, moments where you reached for connection and found less than you needed. That's not a small thing. That's the texture of a relationship changing, and it's okay to feel the weight of that. On the other side, he's living inside a world that is genuinely harder to navigate than it looks from the outside. A world that takes more than it gives back, most days. A world where the people he loves most might be, without anyone intending it, the ones he has the least carefully managed energy for, because they're the ones he doesn't have to perform for. And here's what's easy to miss. Neither of these things cancels the other out. Your need for more connection is real. His capacity being genuinely diminished is also real. And the tension between those two real things is exactly what creates the kind of distance that feels personal, but might not be. It might help to think about what presence actually looks like today in his life. When you were raising him, presence had a certain shape. There were meals together. There were conversations that happened naturally in the same space. Being present meant being physically there, and there was time and structure that made that possible. The workday ended. The house was a place of actual rest. Responsibilities had edges. You knew when they started and when they stopped. That structure doesn't really exist for a lot of people in the same way anymore. And without that structure, presence becomes something you have to actively carve out, against a current that's always pulling in another direction. So when he does call, when he does show up, when he does reply, even briefly, it's possible that what looks like a small gesture is actually something that took more effort than it appears. Not because he doesn't want to, but because wanting and being able to are two different things, and the gap between them can be invisible from the outside. Once you see this, it's hard to unsee. There's also something happening in real time. Every time you interact, that's worth understanding. When you sense distance and reach harder, calling more often, following up on unanswered messages, expressing that you miss him or that things feel different, there's a version of him that receives that and feels something complicated. He loves you. He wants to show up for you. And now he's aware that he's not doing it enough, and that his not doing it enough is causing you pain. And that awareness adds another layer to everything he's already carrying. Not resentment, not irritation, just weight. One more thing he feels like he's not handling well enough. And this is where things can start to shift in a way that neither of you intends. Because the more pressure there is around the relationship, even loving pressure, even well-intentioned pressure, the more the relationship starts to feel like one of the things he has to manage, rather than one of the places he can breathe. And that shift, subtle as it is, can quietly change the quality of contact. Not because he wants it to, but because exhausted people move toward ease and away from demand, almost without thinking. This is nobody's fault. It's just how it can go when the underlying reality doesn't get seen. And here's where something genuinely interesting lies. Because there's a version of this dynamic that slowly finds its way back to something better, not by either person trying harder, but by something shifting in how the connection is held. What if, instead of reaching in the moments when the silence feels loudest, the reach happened differently? Not less, but differently. A message that genuinely doesn't need a response. A photo with no question attached. A voice message that says, "I was thinking about you."
world that
No
didn't
need to reply,
quite exist
and
yet
means it.
when you were
Something that
learning to
lands
be-
in his world without adding to the weight of it. It's possible that the space this creates isn't distance. It's possible it's the kind of space that makes coming back feel easier. Not because the need for connection went away, but because the connection started to feel like a place where he didn't have to be more than he was. And it's possible that over time, that shift, small as it sounds, is exactly what brings him back more fully than anything else could. There's one more thing worth sitting with before we close. He grew up watching you. He knows, somewhere in himself, what it took to raise him. He knows the kind of love that went into that. Even if he's never found exactly the right words for it. Even if he doesn't say it often enough. Even if the pace of his life has made the expression of it quieter than either of you would like. The love is there. It didn't go anywhere. It's just living inside a person who is moving through a world that asks a lot of him every single day. A world that didn't quite exist yet when you were learning how to be his parent. Maybe the reframe isn't about lowering expectations. Maybe it's just about softening the lens a little. Asking, in those quiet moments when the silence feels heavy, asterisk, what might he be carrying right now that I can't see? Asterisk. That question won't answer itself right away, but asking it changes something. It moves you from a place of hurt to a place of curiosity. And from curiosity, it's a lot easier to find your way back to each other. If this gave you something to think about, sharing it with someone who might need it is always welcome. And if you want to keep exploring ideas like this one, staying around for the next video is a good place to start.